In today's video, we're going to chat through the state of group breaking as it currently stands, some of the issues that have been pretty persistent over the last few months, 6 months, I want to say, and then also what we think it's going to look like in the future as the hobby grows and Fanatics comes on board. Now, if you would have seen some of my recent videos, I would have spoken about how the breaking side of things is typically run by amateurs. Now, there's a lot of really good breakers out there. I'm not shitting on you anyway whatsoever, but there are some that are letting you guys down. And what often happens with these sorts of things is the few ruin it for the many, right? And like we've had examples recently with platinum card breaks where they're trying to steal cards from customers, they're damaging cards, they're ripping up cards because they don't like the player in question. They're assaulting someone on camera. You're seeing some other things with, vintage breaks recently and some of these other breakers, when that sort of stuff is happening, it continually raises the question. It's like, what are you guys doing? Like, what's actually happening and how are you protecting your customers? And you've got these people in these positions that are not business people, they're not savvy people, they're just primarily there to try and take advantage of people, and they run these really cowboy operations. And one of the things I spoke about in a video from a few months ago that you may have seen, where I spoke about the dark side of sports card breaking, and how that video was primarily targeted towards the gambling nature on breaking and how it's ruining people's lives, and how you have these group breakers that are not thinking about the livelihoods of the individuals that are buying their cards, or they don't care because, they're not seeing the person directly, they just see a name on a screen. So from their perspective, it's really easy to make that emotional detachment, right? Where they're saying to people, oh, just buy one more box, buy this spot, fill out this spot for me. And next minute, these people are spending, thousands of dollars a month, and these group breakers don't care. These people are so addicted that they're throwing their lives away and losing their lives and losing their livelihood, I should say, just for pieces of cardboard, right? So that video is primarily targeted towards that, but I think it holds strong here too. And the big issue is the people that are running these, for the most part, for these really crappy operations, not the guys that are doing a really good job, is that they don't have, the appropriate business acumen to make sure that they're approaching it with the right perspective, right? They're not coming in and setting up with appropriate cameras. They're not coming in and, treating it as they should be, as in looking after their customers. They're primarily, a lot of these bad ones are primarily there trying to scam their customers, which is really disappointing. But they don't have the appropriate business acumen. And it's one of those things where the barrier to entry to become a breaker, you would have heard me say this many times, is very small. You go to a store, you buy some boxes, all of a sudden you're a group breaker, right? And this is what sort of excites me about Fanatics. It's a little bit disappointing at the same time because, we might start seeing, less product or less hobby product entering stores and getting in the hands of us not wanting to be parts of group breaks. But what Fanatics can do is introduce some sort of regulation into who becomes like an authorized breaker. And while, yes, Panini has something like this in place, Topps have something like this in place, given that it's going to be essentially centralized with one company now, Fanatics, they can do a really good job at weeding out these really poor individuals. And like I spoke about in that dark side of sports breaking video, I touched on how we really needed regulation to come in to primarily protect customers from themselves, right? You need regulation to come in to try and stop this, gambling nature, because I'm sure there's kids, spending a lot of money as well. And lots of people in the comments before said, it's not a thing for kids, but that doesn't change the fact that kids do it. And you can't just say, well, it's not the breaker's fault. Like, yes, it is the breaker's fault. They have a duty of care to give to their customers, right? So from that element, Fanatics can also come in and help, making sure that their product, which they should be, making sure looks like it's being met at a certain level of prestige, I guess, and a certain level of like respect, and then their name is not being tarnished by these clowns that are breaking their product, they can sort of control who this product gets to. And that has some questions around, okay, Daniel, what's to stop the person then on selling it to a different group breaker once it comes from, Fanatics? But what Fanatics could do in that instance, right, is, similar to what Panini do, the boxes are serialized. They know sort of which cases and which boxes the product or the cards came from. So if, for example, Fanatics might have a rule in place saying that if you want to be, an authorized buyer from us, you cannot on-sell this product to anyone else, okay? Or if you want to sell it to someone, you can't go directly to another breaker. So then if a breaker did buy that product and then sends it off to someone else, like platinum card breaks, and Fanatics see that, Fanatics will be like, hey, guys, we're not selling you any more product. We don't want people like platinum card breaks to have our product in hand. It's bad for our image, right? And that's the side of things that Fanatics really excites me about, because I think they can do a really good job with that. Whether they do or not is another question, because you've seen some issues. I know lots of people like the guys from Backyard Breaks, and they do, cop a bit of heat for some very poor mistakes on their part. But they've already aligned to them. Who's to say they're not going to align to some of these other clowns out there? That's what excites me about Fanatics. And I'm very keen to get your thoughts on this, because there are elements to that make it really bad, because it means you as a customer can't buy this product directly, right? Or what's to say if they want to make it direct to you as a customer, who's to say that breakers then can't just buy them and then do the same thing they're doing now? Like, yes, those are kinds of questions that probably still going to persist, but I think you all get what I'm trying to say. Like, I just really think Fanatics have a big job to do to make sure that their product, when it goes to breakers, is getting in the hands of the right people that are not going to rip their customers off. And you're never going to be perfect, and you're always going to have to implement some sort of, monitoring service. But we need a better job than what's happening right now, because from Fanatics' perspective, okay, they want as many people buying cards as possible. So even though they're not buying a card through Fanatics, as in you as an individual, let's give a random person, right? I'm buying, this NRL card. It's a Fanatics product, but I've bought it through a breaker that's not associated with Fanatics. You might be saying, okay, Daniel, why does Fanatics care if that person is dodgy, right? You might be saying that. Well, the logic is, if I'm a new customer, okay, and I'm going to potentially buy more product, but I go through a really shitty breaker, that's not aligned to what Fanatics' values are, and I have a shitty experience, okay, I'm not going to buy cards again. And then that impacts Fanatics' bottom line. And I know in the grand scheme of things, that stuff might not aggregate to making a true impact to Fanatics, but, they have a duty of care, and they should be trying to do certain things to make sure that their business image does not get impacted, right? It does not get, looked at with disdain. So I think these kinds of things should help with that. I'm really keen to get your thoughts on this down in the comments below. I know I rambled quite a lot there, but I just think it's a really interesting talking point, and one that I think, the hobby needs to be a lot better at, because you only have to quickly Google and YouTube, card breaker scam, scams of breakers, breaker scam, all this sort of stuff. And you're going to see, tens, if not hundreds of instances in the last 12 months alone of people getting burned because you've got these clowns running these breaks. And like I said a bit earlier, this is not all breakers. There's only a handful that are ruining it for everyone. And it's just a really unfortunate experience when you've got people that are getting completely taken advantage of. It's just very, very disappointing to see, and I just don't like it. The barrier to entry is so easy these days. These guys just go and download OBS. They've got their phone. They go buy a box from a Target or a local big box store, and then all of a sudden they're a card breaker. And then they charge people, a fortune for these spots that don't have any good cards in it. Quality control's crap, all these things, right? And then they rip their customers off, or they don't send the cards, or there's really long delays, because what these breakers often do as well, which Sports Card Radio flagged in a recent video again I've spoken about in the past, is that, they're using the money coming in from like box breaks that are broken today to pay for the shipping and the boxes they busted previously, right? So they're constantly chasing their tail, and it's just one of those things that happens all the time. I spoke about that with the Mark's card situation, because that's 100% what happened with them. It's just very, very disappointing, and this stuff, is just going to keep persisting unless somebody like Fanatics comes in and puts a stranglehold, bottleneck on this sort of thing, because yes, it does have ramifications for us as individual customers, not necessarily going through group breakers, but this stuff with these group breakers can't keep happening. They need to do better when it comes to making sure their product is not getting in the hands of these basically criminals or individuals that are primarily there to scam their customers or rip them off or do really long delays or not ship things correctly, not bust things on camera, steal cards, all this kind of crap. Fanatics have an opportunity now to sort of fix this process and make sure that things get a little bit better moving forward. Like I said, you're not going to fix this 100% ever, but they can be doing better. Obviously much better than what Panini and Topps are doing right now. Fanatics have a really good opportunity here. I'm very keen to get your thoughts on this, like I said a little bit earlier. So please share those down in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.